Welcome folks to another video. Today we're going to be doing a keto spin on a famous Sichuan noodle dish, Dandan Mien. Now as far as ingredients go, we're going to need a couple of garlic cloves, a bit of fish sauce, some nice dark soy sauce, a couple packs of shirataki noodles, some pork mince, I'm using a country sausage here, a sweetener like this golden monkfruit, a little bit of MSG, some high heat cooking oil, Sichuan peppercorns, chili flakes, sesame seeds, and a green onion. I'm also throwing in some shishito peppers since I happen to have them, and since I happen to not have any of the traditional preserved mustard root, jatsai, it's typically in this dish. I'm going to be doing something a little weird with this sauerkraut, some pickles, and some sambal oleg. I'll talk about that later when we use it. Also going to need some hot sauce, some sesame paste, some sesame oil, and a whole bunch of hot chili oil, not to mention it's a little bit of homemade stock. Of course, this won't be a culturally accurate facsimile of the original dish since we can't keep it keto with all those traditional noodles, but to prepare our substitute for those, these shirataki noodles, we're going to need to thoroughly rinse off all the fishy lye solution that they come in, and then fry them off in a skillet until dry. Before that, I'm going to blister those shishitos in said skillet with a touch of oil on high heat, stirring to coat in the fat but then left to color well. Now, you're going to want to watch yourself because they can get a little bit frisky. Once you're happy with the scorching, evacuate them to a cutting board and then toss in the noodles on fairly high heat since we really want all that water gone. Now to the mise en place. Trim the sad ends off your scallion and slice the white part for the aromatic component of our stir-fry topper. In case you don't know, Dandan Mien usually has three main components. There's a rich and complex sauce, a nest of noodles over top that, and then a heap of stir-fried meat and vegetables. The green part of our onion we're going to slice thin and set aside for the final garnish. To make sure that Gus Johnson doesn't come after me, I'm going to get the stems off these peppers as soon as possible and discard them. Now, they're still a bit hot for me to run over fully with a knife. So, the thing I'll do instead is perform a little magic trick and make a clove of garlic disappear. And then moments later, reappear. After peeling, I give these a rough mince and toss them with the white part of the scallion. Additionally, now I like to grate in some fresh ginger on a microplane, making sure, of course, to scrape everything off the bottom, and we can move on to the non-aromatic portion of the vegetables. Give those peppers a rough chop and start thinking about how to replace the traditional jatsai that I definitely don't have on hand. Since it is a fermented base of a mustard plant, I hear that another spicy fermented cruciferous vegetable like kimchi would work, but I don't have that either. My sources tell me that the texture is something like pickled cucumber, so I'm dicing up a few that I made in an old pickle jar along with the closest thing I do have, some homemade sauerkraut. Finally, since jatsai is supposed to be spicy, I added some sambal oleg to complete this faux jatsai. The few dry aromatics I'm using are fresh cracked black pepper, some of these fruity Aleppo pepper flakes, and then as much Sichuan peppercorn as I can grind before I get bored, since that flavor is just super fundamental to the dish. Now, the noodles are almost there, so for their last couple of minutes of drying, we can get started on that sauce. I'm going to begin with some melted chicken stock and empty out this jar of tahini, which may or may not have been my main motivation for doing this recipe in the first place. See, now I have a new jar. I put just a drop of sesame oil in, a light glug of the hot sauce, a splash of the fish sauce to add some more funk. I was really generous here with the dark soy sauce since it's one of the primary flavors and it's really the only significant source of carbohydrates in the whole dish. Now, 2 sources of flavor crystals are going to go in. We got some MSG and then Lakanto Golden Monkfruit, just to round things out. Finally, I'll spoon in just a whole bunch of chili oil. Mine is homemade with several different chili powders and spices, and it also has schmaltz in it, which accounts for some of that consistency. So we're going to want to put this pot over medium heat and just whisk it until the whole thing is bubbly and emulsified. You'll be able to see that the tahini in particular gives it just an absolutely lovely smoothness. Now we can stir fry. Coat your wok in oil using the long yao process and toss in the meat. Here, using sausage kind of recoiled at me since it clumps up way more than a simple meat mince does, but I eventually was able to break it down. Once it's a bit browned, drizzle in some more of that soy sauce, and once it's as dark as you like it, you can go ahead and toss in the aromatic portion of our vegetables. Mix it around for about a minute until everything's deeply fragrant, making sure not to burn any of that garlic. And now we'll add in the other veg and just give it another minute over the heat, really letting all those flavors marry and letting the smaller pieces of vegetable and sausage crisp up a bit. Finally, we can cut the flame, give it a good stir, sprinkle on a flurry of sesame seeds, and it's time to build our bowl. I started off by pooling the sauce in the bottom of the bowl and then draping the noodles over top. Then we can come in and pile on all that stir-fried meat, being pretty generous here since there are 2 whole servings of noodles going on. Finally, we'll top with the scallions, and we're ready to mix and serve. Now, you really want to get in there and stir this bad boy up. Not every bite will be the same, but coating each noodle is really important for proper slurpage. I gotta say, the spectrum of flavors here is really remarkable. The depth of the umami warms the whole bowl with this undercurrent of the sesame's nuttiness. There's a perky must from the veg and this halo of heat from the chili oil. This is sure to scratch your Chinese food itch without kicking you out of ketosis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.